My own personal experience with cancer started 5 years ago in 2006 when I was diagnosed with bowel cancer. I can't explain just the complete shock, of actually being told that I had bowel cancer. That was something I always thought was for other people and not for me. And I just felt as if, a cage had come over my body and I was just locked in the cage, I think,
My wife, Lisa, was diagnosed 3 years ago at this stage with a rare form of cervical cancer. She had a clear cell. We had a year of fighting the illness before she passed away. And during her sickness, it was actually her idea to try and do a bit towards the research and try and stop other people having to go through what we were going through.
My late husband Jim suffered from the disease. For the last 2 years of his life, the Mercy Hospital became our second home, where he got excellent care and treatment. I feel research is very important for the further care and treatment of people suffering from the disease.
The most difficult part of my job is seeing patients who you think are going to do well do badly. That's very frustrating. People where you feel that their lives should have been longer, their cancer should have been cured, and their suffering should have been less. That I think is the most difficult aspect of our job.
Breaking bad news, telling people that the treatment hasn't worked and there's very few other options available to them. Or indeed right from the start that the role of chemotherapy is just to hold the disease in check and the chances of cure is very minimal. I think that's probably uniformly throughout what I do every day is probably the hardest part of my job.
The conclusion I draw is that we should try and cure cancer now, not 10 to 20 years from now. That is, it should be our primary objective. It would be sort of irresponsible to all these people who would die of cancer if we don't try and do it now.
Cork Cancer Research Centre investigates major issues in the development and treatment of cancer through teams of university-based scientists and collaborating clinicians at multiple teaching hospitals. The centre researches both primary and secondary disease, which has already led to 5 clinical trials. Our main focus is the development of new treatments for cancer that do not currently respond to conventional therapies.
We have accomplished one of our goals, and that is to get a mixture of scientists, clinical people, oncologists, surgeons, clinical investigators working together to try and resolve questions that arise and to try and bring new leads which are of a generic nature that may be applied and of a specific nature that can be used early in the treatment of patients. So I think that the laboratory and the clinical experience are very closely intertwined, and I think that makes our research much more meaningful.
A lot of the work in the Cancer Research Centre is designed to look at newer treatments where the existing treatments have stopped working. So what we call resistance to cancer therapy or drug resistance. And we've been collaborating with the Cancer Research Centre in terms of clinical trial development on this issue. And it's been a very productive collaboration. It really is a very important example of where investment in bench-side research then is now translating into investigations in the clinic and hopefully better treatment options for patients with cancer.
We can see that for many cancers such as ovarian and esophageal cancer, when these recur they're particularly resistant to chemotherapeutic agents. And because we understand more about this process now, we can design new treatments that can overcome this resistance mechanism. And this is just showing an example of one of these treatments. This is cancer cells recurring after standard chemotherapy, and this is a new treatment regime, and you can see there's much fewer cancer cells coming back again after this treatment.
So the group in the Cork Cancer Research Centre working on novel therapeutics are trying to develop medical devices that allow us to treat patients in a minimally invasive manner. And that means using systems like a colonoscope or an endoscope type system. That means that we can target the cancer directly using
a procedure that can be done on an outpatient basis using a simple endoscope with a device that we've developed here in the centre. So it's an important step forward perhaps in terms of treating what would be currently considered incurable disease.
What we're working on in our group is allowing the immune system to recognise that the tumour is a tumour so that it can bring about its destruction. And this will have two effects. As I say, firstly, it'll destroy the tumour where it lies itself, but also we would hope that it would act to destroy distant cells from the tumour, that is the metastases. And this is important because we know that once you develop metastases, your chances of survival decrease dramatically. And we've proven that we can both target the tumours in the primary site and at distant sites with treatments we're developing here at Cork Cancer Research Centre.
There are people who are walking around cured of cancer today that wouldn't have been cured 10 years ago, or that those treatments would not be available. Assuming that we will make the same progress in the next 10 years, and I'm hopeful we'll even make more progress, well then you would have to say that there are many cancers which are deemed today to be very aggressive and incurable that will be cured within the next 10 years.
The things that we talked about last year are actually happening, and I think it's very important for everyone who supports us doing our cancer research to know that every single cent and euro that they're raising in support of us is going straight to the laboratory bench, and these research ideas are actually bearing fruition already. It'll take a while, of course, for them to come into clinical use, but these innovations that I've just talked about, gene therapies, oncolytic viruses, etc., this is actually all happening on the bench here in Cork as we speak. And I think that's very exciting because there has to be a change. What we've been doing for many years has got us so far, but I don't think it's going to, it'll help to cure a lot, control many, but I think ultimately, I think it's the novel treatments that are really going to find their way into things like gene therapies that'll work.
Research is absolutely vital to discover new mechanisms by which cancer grow, new targets that could be exploited by new drugs. It's only through clinical trials and through bench research initially that all of these things can be brought forward and clinical trials can happen, and then hopefully better results from newer treatments. So research is absolutely paramount.
Research is very important to find treatment and a cure and basically make things easier for those suffering from the disease.
There are a number of areas that are promising for the cure. The disease is such a terrible one, and for so long has been such a challenge that if the research is as close as it seems to be in some areas, then I think it's imperative that it's pushed to, even if only some types of the cancer can be cured, then there has to be a massive step forward.
I met a lot of people while I was going through my treatment, and unfortunately some of them were not as lucky as I am here today to be able to tell my story. They didn't make it. So that's why research is just so important. And it's so important for people to give. And it doesn't matter if you can give €1 or €1,000,000, it all adds up. And if everybody that's looking at this video could just make one more friend for the Cancer Research Centre, that would make a huge difference.